I would like to switch the language now because I would like to introduce our first keynote speaker, Peter Leeson. He is the founder and director of Kpis Ltd, based in England. He has nearly 40 years experience in software industry, and he is a well-known international speaker, instructor, and consultant. I think many of you know Peter from IT Camp, where he had year by year some unforgettable speeches. For me, Peter is one of those speakers who make you feel smarter just listening them. So I'm eager to hear his presentation about quality. Peter, please.
Thank you. Now the magic. No? No magic? Nearly? Twitch. Technology is what lets you down when you least expect it. There, we got it. Bună dimineața. I'm sorry that I do not speak Romanian. I will try to make sure that I am understood. I want to talk to you this morning about the concept of quality, why it is not possible, and how to do it. The first question, of course, is who am I to speak to you about quality? So I'll start with a brief introduction. I'll talk to you about who am I. Because the talk is called Quality is in the Mind, I will talk about what's in my mind, and then I will try to define quality, to explain why it is actually something impossible. Let's establish a ground rule to start with. The first person whose telephone rings out loud is paying for lunch for everybody. So who am I? I am a quality manager for a company called White Clark Group. You've probably never heard of this company, but you may have used our product. We develop an incredibly complex modular system for financing and leasing of cars. If you buy a car from Volkswagen, Mercedes, Toyota, Fiat, and so on, and through a number of banks, and they finance it, we've used our software. This is a graphic to show why our software doesn't do what you expect because it's too complex. To add to that, we're a multinational company with development centers around the world. So we've got people developing bits of the product in different languages, different cultures, different time zones. And I try to manage the quality. This line here, which goes all the way across, the little red light doesn't work, okay? Quality office, that's me, okay? I'm trying to keep all these people synchronized, and that is what is my task, because I have been evil in a past life, so I have to repent and make this happen. Otherwise, I'm a public speaker. I have been speaking many times in Cluj. I am sorry for all those who've heard me before when I repeat myself, but I only have one topic. I try to change the format, but I'm always saying the same thing. What else? I am a former consultant. Dan said I was a consultant and so on. That's all gone, that's all given up. I've decided that I've got more fun things to do in my old age than consultancy. But I have worked around the world Every continent except South America, I'm still hoping, and Antarctica, I'm not hoping. I've learned a lot by working in many companies and trying to change the way they work and trying to get them to understand what quality is about. What's in my mind? A lot of rubbish. Mind is very important. I'm a very strong supporter of a man who's called Viktor Frankl, who wrote a fantastic book explaining that what is important in life is to have an objective, and then you can put up with things. And the mind is your last defense against the world. Also in my mind, most of the time I'm an amateur artist, and most of the time I'm thinking of getting back to painting instead of being here. I am also a theoretician. I prefer theory to practice. I've written a book. I've brought a few copies with me just in case. Can't hurt. I wrote a book trying to bring together a number of things. And what I'm going to present to you today is largely what I am hoping to put into my second book. I have an obsession with quality, which is why I keep on coming back to that word. So, when I talk about quality, people keep on asking me, what actually is quality? And the answer is very simple. Nobody knows. Quality is something you talk about. Quality is something you promise. Quality is something you complain about. But when I ask you to define it, you can't. I looked up in the dictionary a couple of days ago just to make sure. And quality was defined as how good or bad something is. That doesn't mean anything. Just to make sure, I went and looked up in a dictionary of the origin of words, where the word quality comes from. It wasn't in it. Nobody knows what it is. We get rubbish definitions when we talk about quality in work. Just to help me show what quality means, I thought I'm going to Google quality cars. Google is a verb. I'm assuming you all know what Google is. Google is Big Brother who steals your identity and sells it on to companies. But they have a better definition than that. So when I looked up quality cars, I came across pictures. These are all quality cars. Maybe not the first thing that comes to mind when you think quality car. Some of these are quite interesting. This is a quality car. For me, it's a boring car. It's sort of basic. This I can understand. If this comes up as a quality car, I can understand that. If this comes up as a quality car, I can understand that. And then there's this. Don't know what this is. Apparently this is a quality car. Not the first thing that comes to my mind. When I hear quality car, I'm thinking more along something like this. But what do I know about cars? When I'm talking about quality, when I ask people to define quality, I'm talking to people in companies, and I would ask them, you're responsible for quality assurance, quality control. Can you tell me what quality means? And they can't. And I'm saying, how can you assure it or control it if you don't know what it is? And so I get these rubbish definitions. Quality is everyone's business. Now, in my experience, quality is everyone's business always translates into it's somebody else's problem. We have quality people. Of course you have quality people. And you know how to recognize the best quality people in your company. They are the first ones who find work somewhere else. If you rely on them, you're in trouble. As per requirements, I'm going to develop a quality product if it corresponds to the requirements. The requirements were given to me by my customer. Has anybody here ever worked for a customer who didn't know what he wanted? How can you say quality is satisfying requirements if you don't know what you want? Bigger, better, faster, cheaper. This is not English. Each one of these words requires the word than behind. Bigger than what? Cheaper than who? If you're not defining that, these words are meaningless. First time right. Okay, what does right mean? Oh, we're back to square one. Good enough. Good enough is not a definition of quality. Good enough is a definition of budget. It means don't spend any more money on this if the client is willing to take it as it is. Personal opinion. You need a clear definition. You need a clear definition of quality, because if you cannot define it, if you cannot measure it, you cannot do it. It's that simple. If you don't know what it is, you cannot do it. Let me give you a few definitions of quality. Number one, quality is a satisfied client. If your client is satisfied, that's okay, that's good quality. If your client is not satisfied, that's bad quality. This creates a question. How do we know our client is satisfied before we deliver? The client is a satisfied employee. When I started working in process and quality and cultural aspects, I said I was doing this for social reasons, because I believe that even a software engineer should be allowed to go home at night after a normal day's work satisfied of a job well done. I believe that even a software engineer should be allowed to know that you're not going to receive a phone call in the middle of the night because something crashed, or have to work all weekend because some idiot promised a delivery on Monday. In other words, quality is satisfaction. I don't have sound. I was supposed to have sound. Okay. We'll skip this and we'll focus back on quality. Right. Moving on. Quality is happiness. A few questions on this slide. I say slide. I am the annoying person who annoyed the organizers here by not using PowerPoint. I decided to use something else than PowerPoint because I think it's more fun. What makes you happy? What makes your clients happy? What makes your management happy? What makes your stakeholders happy? If you can align these things, if you can agree that all these things get the same answer, you're in a good company and you're doing the right job. Very few people are. This is a definition I've been using now for 20 years. It says that quality is what you produce divided by what they expect. Quality is what you produce divided by what your clients expect. The higher the expectation, the lower the quality, no matter what you do. You're expecting a lot, you will never be satisfied. A few years ago, the United States elected President Obama. When he got elected, there was a big disappointment because somehow Obama was going to solve everything. Obama was going to do magic. Obama could walk on water. And then he got elected and he did what he could do, and it was obviously disappointed. Last year, the United States elected Trump. We're all very happy to still be alive and not have the nuclear holocaust. So arguably, Trump is a better president than Obama because the expectations are so low. Quality is a relationship. And this is the challenge, you see. Quality is not something you build into your product. Quality is not something you can guarantee in the services you deliver. Quality is a relationship between a subject and an object. What I see as quality is not what you see as quality, even when we're looking at the same product. It's a bit like quantum physics. We don't actually know what it is until we've measured it, and then we know what it was. But we only know it after the fact. This is a problem. We talk about engineering quality, we talk about designing quality, and yet we're saying quality is only the relationship your client has with your product. So what are you going to do about it? First question, why is it important? The first reason it is important is because you are in a global. Don't you love this map? This is the orthograph. It is a map of the world which has every country in the right dimensions, contrary to Mercator projections and all the traditional ones. It was created by a Japanese man, which is why Japan is in the middle. We all know whenever we look at a map that we are in the middle of it. You're in a global market. You are competing against the rest of the world. When I started coming to Cluj many years ago, I warned people, and I have been repeating that warning again and again. People have been outsourcing to Romania because you are cheap. As business grows, and as I think there's some 350 software companies in Cluj, therefore you can cross the road and earn more money. And your prices are going up. And if your prices go up faster than the recognition of quality, you will lose. Quality is critical, particularly here. There are people in South Africa, in East Asia, in North America, in West Europe, who want your job, who want your business, who want your clients, who want your money, and don't care about you. If you are not the best quality, you lose out to somewhere else, because I can find your product, whatever it is, somewhere else. and I can very probably find it cheaper. So you need to be better. Financially, quality is critical. I'm too often hearing people saying, we don't have time to do this, we don't have time to do the analysis, the peer reviews and all this. Quality means spending less time and money testing, spending less time and money fixing, not having to have a customer support line, a helpline, being able to focus your people on development, on engineering activities, on creating better products. Quality is free, said Phil Crosby. It is an investment. There is a big return on investment. You have to take the time to do it correctly. There's an expression that time is money. Turn that around. No time means no money. If you don't have time to do the work correctly, you will lose your income. Quality impacts productivity. If you are satisfied of a job well done, you will work harder. If you think you've produced a high quality product, you will do a better job next time because it motivates you. It motivates you to know you've done something special. If you feel you're producing rubbish because you're pressed by time, you will be demotivated and you will produce bad quality products. And that means you need this balance with your personal life. Job satisfaction, there's some key criteria. Number one, you need to be paid a decent wage for where you live. You need to have the resources to do your job. That includes training, that includes budget, that includes the tools. You need to have a good balance between challenges and business as usual. You need to have trust, recognition, support. You need to have direction. You need to understand where it's going. You need leadership and methodologies. But that's another talk. So, we have identified that quality is only a relationship and therefore cannot be done. And we have identified that quality is critical and must be done. Number one question, who is defining your quality? Who is deciding what is good quality? In order to define the quality, the first thing you do is need to understand is who are your clients and your stakeholders, be able to determine their requirements and their expectations. The expectations are what they do not tell you. When I stay in hotels, I can ask for a room on a high floor, on a low floor. I can ask for a non-smoking room. I can ask for twin beds, double beds, whatever. I have never asked for sheets and towels. Those are my expectations. You then meet client requirements and exceed expectations, right? This is good, and you think now you've produced quality. You're halfway there. We then want to anticipate the client needs. I want you to know what your client needs before they do. I want you to continuously improve and gain their loyalty. You do not have the liberty of letting your clients look somewhere else if they can find cheaper. This bit, exceeding expectations, is just meeting your contractual obligations. This is what your salespeople have promised. Quality is up there. This is where we find quality. And what does this mean in quality? It means that I am doing something additional. I am adding value to my client. I am providing something that they did not know about. Adding value to your client means understanding points of view. Your point of view is very different from your clients. You're seeing a different picture. What you think is quality. If I look at this photograph, it looks like a very lovely photograph. But your client is underneath here. Your client is down here and sees something completely different. It's the same view. It's a different point of view. It's a different understanding, and therefore it's a different expectation. Quality is not about controls. Quality is about inspiration. Quality is a cultural aspect. We need to put in place a few things. When I'm asking for quality, I'm not asking for perfection. There is an expression that says perfection is the enemy of good. Okay? There has to be a limit. Quality means I'm going to do a little bit better every time. Establish the culture. Establish an organizational understanding of quality. This is where we start at senior management level. Who are you as a company? What do you want to be? I've regularly been asking managers, CEOs, and employees, why in 5, 10, 15 years' time would anyone want to be working here knowing they can earn more money somewhere else? That's where things become interesting. Why do you want to work here when you can earn more money somewhere else? I had one CEO who told me that if you can earn more somewhere else, you shouldn't be working here because it shows a lack of ambition. My reaction was the CEO's only ambition in life is to earn a lot of money. Doesn't work. It's a side product. It's like happiness. Okay, this is the big lie of the American dream, the pursuit of happiness. Don't pursue happiness. Happiness comes to you because of other things. It's okay to want to be the best in the world. By the way, this sign really did pour out free Carlsberg beer. There was a long queue. It's okay to want to be the first. This is the first motorcycle developed by Daimler-Benz. Not the first company you think of in terms of motorcycles, but this is recognized as the first motorcycle in the world. It's okay to want to be the cheapest. This is the cheapest Hilton hotel in the world, in Australia, somewhere in the outback, I don't remember where. If that's your definition of quality, good. It's okay to be whatever it is you want to be. What is not okay is not to know. That doesn't work. If you don't have a clear definition of who or what you want to be, you'll never get there. So, we have what I've called the 12 steps. The 12 steps are 12 questions to ask in sequence, starting at the top level of your company. Number one, what are we as a company? Are we a product company? Are we a project company? Are we a service company? Are we a solution company? Do we want to produce things that are quick and easy to replace? Do we want to produce long-lasting quality? Do we want to be... I was going to name 2 cars, but I won't because I'll only get into trouble. Once you know what you want to be as a company, question number 2 is how do you behave? As senior management, as top executive, as project manager, how do you need to behave in order to support your company's vision? Number 3, What do we need? What do we need to do? Do we need to provide training? Do we need to provide subscriptions to Today's Soft magazine to all our employees? Quick plug there for the organizers, you're welcome. Do we need more tools? Do we need modern equipment? Do we need something different? Do we need to send people to conferences to study our clients? What do we need? And what's my part in this? As a senior executive, what is my role? As a project manager, what is my role? How do I motivate? How do I get people to participate, to believe in my dream, and to want to play with me? Number 5, how do we learn? You make mistakes, how do you learn from them? How do you learn from your competition's mistakes? How do we manage information? In a few months' time, we've got GDPR coming in, which is a lot of fun. How do you manage the information? How do you control the information? What are you willing to communicate or not communicate? How do we collaborate? How do we make sure that the mistake of project A is learned by project B, C, and D? How do we get that information across? If you're not collaborating properly in the company, things will not work out. Who cares? This is a big question. I have seen many company policies which say you have to, you must, you will, you shall, all these wonderful things. And if you don't, we'll manage. I have, as quality manager, participated in a change advisory board and blocked a release to a client. I said, I'm sorry, I cannot allow this to be released to the client because I don't think it has been properly validated, verified, and proven to work and not have regression issues. The result was that the project manager went up to the general manager and said, I've promised this to the client, I have to release it. Quality is saying no. And general manager said, you go ahead and release it. Okay? Who cares? If you don't care, it won't happen. Where do we get feedback? I'm going to come back to this. I want feedback from clients, I want feedback from employees. If quality is the happiness of my customers and the satisfaction of my employees, I want feedback to know we're doing that. With whom do we share information? What am I willing to tell my clients? What am I willing to tell my staff? What am I willing to tell my management? What am I willing to tell my shareholders? How do we adapt? World is changing very fast. Your marketplace is changing very fast. Your competition is changing very fast. How are you going to follow this on? I have this basic principle that anyone who tells me that we do it this way because I've always done it this way needs, let's say, correction. I would like to fire them on the spot, but that's not always the right solution. How do we improve? If you think you don't need to improve, you're wrong. I don't care how good you are. There is only one level of perfection, and that is death. Those are the only ones who cannot improve. Everyone else can. If you think you cannot improve, you're already dead. So, making it happen. We've asked these questions, we've got answers, we put in place a number of things. I need systems and structures. Okay? I need some level of accountability. I need to have some kind of governance in place. I have heard too many people justifying agile methodologies as not having to document anything, not following any process, just code and hack. That's not what agile is about. I need to have something. I need to have measurements in place. I need to have governance in place from the start. I need to have leadership. There is too often a confusion between leader and manager. All right, a manager is someone who knows where you are, who understands the budget, who stabilizes things, who doesn't rock the boat. A leader is someone who knows where you're going and who is going to go there and inspire you to follow. If you're in a company that has got only managers and no leaders, you will not go anywhere. If you're in a company that has only leaders and no managers, you will go anywhere. Empowerment. Make your own decisions. You need to be able to make your own decisions. You know how to do your job. You know what you need. Make your own decisions. Organize yourself. Talk to your colleagues who are doing a similar job and get the solutions that suit your business, your role. Client focus. Do you think your client really wants a product that doesn't work but is delivered on time? Understand your client. That's what you're trying to achieve. Collaboration. Obviously, I think everyone understands this, that we are talking about collaboration. We're talking about teams. Difference between teams and groups is that a group is a bunch of people who happen to be working together. A team are people who support and complete one another. Teams understand each other's strengths and weaknesses and are there to work together. Continuous improvement. Whatever you do, what are the lessons learned? How can we make sure that next time we do it correctly? Every task, as far as I'm concerned, needs to be followed with a lessons learned, post-implementation report, post-mortem, whatever you want to call it, retrospective. There has to be something where we sit down, decide what went well, what went wrong, and decide what can be done to solve the problem. And that decision then gets communicated. For improvement, you need leadership, not management. Management tends to tell you what to do. Leadership tells you where to go. Sometimes managers tell you where to go, but that's not always a friendly thing. Define the goal, establish expectations. Notice the word there, suggest a methodology. This is what we're trying to achieve. This is our methodology. This is our process. These are our work practices. But it's a suggestion. If you can find better, please tell me how to improve this. Oh, we're back here. Not yet. Thank you for that lone person clapping. I appreciate it. But I'm going to continue talking for a bit long. We've identified that quality is a quantum concept that you can only identify and define if you measure it and then it's too late. We have identified that quality is necessary in every case. We have identified the infrastructure, the concepts that you need in order to achieve quality. Can you measure it? And I don't mean measuring quality when it's too late. I don't mean the mean time between failure, it's too late, it has failed. I don't mean the number of defects per lines of code, it's too late, there are defects. How can I move this up forward? So I'm coming back to some of the definitions I have given you and trying to work from there. There's first of all a concept which needs to be understood. And that is the difference between realized quality and perceived quality. Perceived quality is when your clients say, I think that would be useful, or your manager or whoever. Realized quality is when your clients say, wow, that's a lot more useful than I expected. That's a key difference. We need to try and achieve the realized quality. And that means measuring the difference between the value and the cost. We are very good at measuring cost. Is there anybody here who works for a company that is not measuring cost? No, yes, there's someone there. You work for the university. I'm sure there's someone there running budgets there, but okay. So it's good to know the university does not manage their costs, so make the best of it, guys. Okay. Key principles for success. Number one, understand the critical objectives, the quality objectives. Understand what it is that your company is trying to achieve. My wife works not for a university but for a college. They are completely focused on measuring costs and not having an understanding of what they're trying to achieve. They are not interested in the education they are providing to their students. They are interested in having cheap teachers and flashy technology. That is all that is interesting. My wife, I said my wife works, she used to work. She's found out she can work for herself and get better results, less time and more money. Think stakeholders. When talking about objectives, needs, think about your stakeholders. Sorry, this thing doesn't like me, it whistles when I come too close. Think about stakeholders, okay? When you're talking about your clients, if you're in the software industry, think about the maintenance people. Who is going to have to maintain this product in 2 years, in 5 years' time? Who is going to have to fix it? Think about the testers. What do they need? That starts at the requirements level. Right from the start, you need to think about all your stakeholders. Your senior management stakeholders, your accountant stakeholders, all this is important and needs to be managed from the start. Focus on quality and not functionality. Now there's a challenge. I would rather have a tool that does less but does it very well than a tool that fails at a lot of things. We like to add functionality because we think that's going to impress the clients. It doesn't. It impresses the prospects, not the clients. Quantify quality. There's a challenge. Quantify is not the same as measure. Okay? Quantifying is the speed you're going, measuring is your speedometer. Those are two very different things. Even though your speedometer says the same thing, you are going very slow on a motorway or very fast in the center of town. So quantify the quality. Don't mix the ends and the means. I think that's clear. You also don't want your clients to tell you how to resolve their problems. Capture explicit information about value. Be precise as to what you mean. We'll come back to that. Rich specifications. So we have got old terminology. I know this is old-fashioned terminology. Requirements is what my client says they want. Specifications is how I translate that into what my developers need to do. Stories are specifications, not requirements. Make sure they are adding something to the requirement. What are we actually expecting? Carry out specification quality control. Here's a concept. Test your stories. Consider product life cycle and systems thinking. Not project life cycle, product life cycle. How are we going to replace this? How are we going to take this out? As a consultant, one of my clients used to build nuclear submarines. Trust me, the destruction of the submarine was part of the original requirements. How do we get rid of this thing afterwards? Recognize that requirements change, obviously. And now, you need to enter the mind of your client. First of all, understand the need. What do they actually need versus what they are asking? I've seen this picture a lot on the internet. I've tried to find out where it comes from, who first published it. I can't. Even the Google reverse picture search gets confused. Understand the wow. If quality is the relationship your client has with your product or service, what are you going to put into it to which they will say, wow? What is that additional thing that you can produce that they're not expecting and they're really going to like? And by the way, how much are you willing to spend on it? They haven't asked for this. It's not their requirements, it's not their expectations. But it's what's going to bring them back, and it's what's going to make them talk about you. Understand the value. If the cost of what you're doing is greater than the value it brings to your clients, to your users, I don't care how cheap it is, don't do it. If the value of what you are doing is greater than the cost, I don't care how expensive it is, do it. But that means understanding, defining, measuring value. Communicate the vision. If you don't know what the vision is, you're not going to do it. Integrate knowledge. For me, I'm strongly opposed to the traditional hierarchical structure of kings and barons that we found in so many companies, where there's a small group at the bottom who is doing what the clients want, and a large group of people controlling the small group. You have the knowledge. You need to organize according to your knowledge flow. Make the knowledge your primary organizational factor, and quality will follow. Define expectations, establish systems, reduce time to market. All these are good things. Understand the difference between value and cost. Cost is a bottom-up thing. The cost of your product is the sum total of all the components. Value is a top-down. The value of your product starts from the top, and then we identify what are the value of the various components to bring them all together. By understanding this, you can plan for value from the start. Then we need KPIs. We all love KPIs, don't we? Number one measurement you want to do is the cost of quality. Break down the cost of quality into its components. Identify what is the cost of good quality versus the cost of bad quality. Planning, designing, creating, that's good quality. Testing the first time is good quality. Testing the second time the same thing is bad quality. Customer support is cost of bad quality. All these things in this column here are signs of bad quality. Let's start measuring it at this level. Okay? General rule of thumb. Every euro you invest here can save you 3 euros here. This is the expensive bit. I have looked at projects where this is over 50% of their budget. Over 50% of the budget is spent on fixing what they did wrong. That's not acceptable. Interruptions. If you are continuously interrupted in your work, you are wasting time, you are being brought back, you've got to restart, you've got to find back your thought process. What is the cost of interruptions? We have this stupid concept. It's been going on now for close to 40 years, and for close to 40 years we have known that an open plan office costs between 25 and 30% of your productivity. Why are you still using open plan offices? You're not saving money, you're wasting it. People are continuously being interrupted by somebody else's conversation, by someone else's phone call, by someone who has just been to get a cup of coffee and stops to ask if you watched the football last night. It wasn't last night. Romania beat Turkey 2-0, understood. And trust me, I know nothing about football, but it happened here. I love coming to Cluj. One of the things that always fascinates me when I come to Romania is trying to find out what is the latest political scandal. You've always got a new one. It's fascinating. One of my favorite measurements that nobody wants to give me. How many defects do you do as a company per hour? It's a simple thing to measure. How many defects per hour do you produce? Once I know that, I can plan testing. NPS, you all familiar with Net Promoter Score? The Net Promoter Score, you've all done it. Someone has asked you on a scale from 1 to 10, would you recommend us to your friends and colleagues? That is a measurement of the Net Promoter Score. If you score 9 or 10, that's a positive number. If you score 6 or less, that is a negative number. 7 or 8 are nil. We then add up all the numbers, and if it's above 0, it means you've got more promoters than not. If you score 7 on recommendation, you're not going to do it. You don't recommend someone if you think they're only 70% good. It's only the 9 and 10s that are positive. If you score 5, you're going to tell your friends that it's a rubbish company. Measure this, but measure it not once a year, measure it at every communication. Ask them at every communication, how satisfied are they? Every invoice should have a link to the Net Promoter Score. Continuously ask this. I don't want to know once a year, I want to know on an ongoing basis if the trend is going up or down. Employee engagement, again on an ongoing basis. One of the most destructive things they put in place in companies is an annual review. The annual review is where you're going to see your manager and you build up a sales pitch explaining why you are fantastic and deserve more money and all the great things you've done. Your manager is expecting this, so they have built up the case explaining why you're rubbish and you don't deserve more money and you should be happy we're not firing you immediately. And then we meet, we argue, and we reach the result that the manager had decided before you ever walked in. It's destructive, it's demoralizing. Let's do it on a continuous basis. And let's use 3-way questions. Okay, so again, at every interaction, ask the question. I asked for something, give me feedback. The more I go to the top, that means that the more the response was accurate. The more I go to the left, it was complete. The more I go to the right, it was timely. In other words, this, I got a quick answer and it was wrong. Here, I got a good, complete answer, too late. You want to bring it to the middle. And it's just an impression, it's not numbers. But it's surprising when you put this in place how you find clusters of information in one corner. And then you can start doing something about it. So, that was it. This is me. I've got about 3 minutes left to just tell you to buy my book. If you want to contact me, I'm not here tomorrow, unfortunately, because the company I work for is in the middle of an audit, and it was difficult enough getting 1 day away. So I have to be back at work tomorrow morning in England to continue with the auditor. My thanks to all these wonderful people who are paying for my hotel. And have I got time for a question or two? Okay, let's have 1 or 2 questions. Let's have 2 questions.
Okay, so if you have questions, just raise your hand and we bring the mic as fast as possible.
Question number 1, when is he going to stop talking? Then we can go and have coffee. No questions? There's a question in the middle, you see, so that you can't get the mic to him. There's always one in the middle.
Hi. So, did you manage to implement, let's say, half of the ideas you talked about?
I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. I have managed to implement all of them, but not in the same company. I have managed to implement more than half in several companies. I'm not going to name names because I'm under strict confidentiality rules regarding my consultancy work, but all of these things have been implemented many times, including here in Cluj. So it is possible. It's not easy, but if it's easy, it's not fun. And I'm assuming, just out of curiosity, are there any senior decision makers in the room? Huh. Okay. Tell your senior decision makers to buy my book. Okay. So thank you.